Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swain.
Hello, and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. We here on the podcast have been on a little bit of an AI journey to better understand.
Some of us on a slightly longer journey than others.
Journey to better understand how technology can support us as the world is evolving quickly and as our nonprofit friends are experiencing a lot of change. And so we've decided to take the next step and dive in further with the AI dude who's here with us. Kristen, let's make sure to introduce Josh to everyone.
Let's do it. Josh Hirsch is the education and training specialist at Fundraise Up and founder of the AI Dude. He has worked in the nonprofit sector since 2006 with a focus on educational philanthropy for both public charter and independent private schools. He has an extensive background in social media, digital communications, and marketing, along with experience in grant research and writing, individual giving, special event planning, stewardship, and cultivation of donors. So basically, everything.
All the things, all the fundraising.
Josh is a pioneering educator in the realm of artificial intelligence for nonprofits, having contributed to the development of a specialized curriculum at the fundraising school to empower nonprofit organizations with AI competencies. Josh, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate the invite. And it's kind of crazy when I hear my bio and it's like, wow, I've been in this sector almost 2 decades now. And it makes me feel old, but it makes me also think about how much we've seen this sector evolve over this time to where we are today. And I personally don't think beyond the advent of the internet and email have we seen anything more revolutionary and innovative than AI right now for our sector.
That's why we're here.
That's why
we're talking. I think what also you bring to the table is an international perspective that I don't know that we always get. So we're excited to talk about that. You teach around the globe. You're just back from Europe. You're heading off to Williamsburg next. So big picture for the AI sector right now. We're a little bit behind
in AI, nonprofit world
in AI adoption, as with all things. I feel like, late adoption to pieces. So as the AI dude with a global perspective, what is AI making possible for fundraising?
I think we need to get past the what can't it do for us versus what can it do for us. And really, it can do anything we want it to. When we have to think about the two houses of AI. We've got generative and predictive. And right now, predictive is super powerful, but it is a barrier to access. Whereas generative, we have at any time on our phones through ChatGPT, through Claude, through Gemini, we have a way to talk to the computer to create something from nothing, to utilize that little bit of time in our day to identify what are those speed bumps, right? We don't have problems, we have opportunities for solution. And I love to look at I love to look at it through a root cause analysis perspective. I know what I'm trying to accomplish. I know what my endpoint is going to be, and I know where I am now. So how can I, using creative thinking and strategic thinking, reverse engineer a solution through generative AI? And I guess my mind works a little different. I am very much mile a minute, don't stop, always trying to create solutions. And it's by talking to the computer, and I emphasize the word talking, because I'm not, when I'm doing my prompt engineering, it's not a secret language, it's not a code, but I'm not explaining to a very young child who needs their handheld what my expectations are, what I want them to do, and how I want it to look in the end. If you take that perspective through your prompting, anything is possible.
Well, so I want to break apart some of the things you just said, because I think that we have experienced a lot of nonprofit users that maybe identify that they have used ChatGPT for something generative. So you said generative and predictive, but I want to identify those things, right? Yep. Generative, asking it to write something for you, asking it to create a graphic for you. Predictive, how are nonprofits using predictive AI tools?
So low hanging fruit from a predictive perspective, think about all those wealth screening third-party vendors out there.
Got it.
I'm giving my house list data to them, not anonymized, and that's the other thing to get across. Like when we're doing predictive analytics and using these tools, we give our cherished database list of top 100 donors to a third-party vendor, which, once again, they're all amazing. You dig into their terms of service, your data is fine. That's not a concern. They are using their algorithm and their magic box to say, you know what? Out of your top 100 donors, we believe, based upon various data points, that this is who you should target. This is their potential for giving. And then there's additional vendors out there. It's like, we're going to take that level of data, but also say, we know when you should be asking them. We know how you should be talking to them, and we know what you should be saying. That is super powerful, but it's not cost prohibitive, but it's not a $20 a month subscription to ChatGPT.
Right. Yep. Right.
And that obviously isn't factoring the sweat equity, the time to train your staff, the time and resources to adopt a philosophy and workflow of integrating generative AI into your organization. But it can be so powerful from a donor engagement perspective, utilizing predictive. We're not there just yet. We don't have that ChatGPT integration and access, but there's some incredible, third-party vendors out there working in this sector that are driving such engagement and further giving for their donors.
I feel like, I know it looks different from where you sit because you are on some of the back end of these pieces,
right.
But from sort of my user perspective, I can literally clock a year ago, I was having conversations about like, oh, should I have this generate a podcast summary for me?
Right.
Accelerated through to now we're having all of these conversations. And it may just be that I'm dropping into the space, but if I imagine myself sort of like the nonprofit sector where I'm gleaning information as it's sort of coming to me via publications or, I'm not sitting exactly on the cutting edge. I have to think about too, for those users, that accelerated trajectory and the gap, perhaps.
Yeah.
The continual gap of feeling like it's just going so fast. Where do I, what that is. So I think it's super helpful for me to think about the different kinds of AI.
Yeah. And then it's probably more integrated into our lives than we know, right?
The
it's
other
in
piece.
Tools.
Yeah. That's the other piece that, it seems like a no-brainer. And yet here I am. I'm today years old where I'm like, oh, that's what that, I think just naming the ubiquitousness of it helps bring the ladder down a little bit for some people in thinking like, I don't see it. I don't use it. I don't ever want to use it. It's like, well, it's here. It's already happening.
Well, it's integrated into so many tools already.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, Josh, for someone who isn't already aware of their use of AI and is looking to do some of the most basic things of making work faster, cutting time out of their day, and they're in the nonprofit sector, where do you think they should start? Like, how do they even begin? Is there a tool you would recommend, a place you would go, a class you would take? Like, where do people begin to better understand how AI can support them?
And I think at the end of the day, no matter what tool you're using, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, if you live and work within a Microsoft ecosystem using Copilot, if you understand prompt engineering and training, and when I say training, it's not about attending workshops and professional development, but training of the model you're working with. If you know how to talk to the computer, you can accomplish anything. And one of my number one recommendations, no matter if you've been using, and I'm going to just keep using the term ChatGPT because it's the brand leader right now. And
totally.
For me, I was a day one, November 22nd, 2022 OG beta user, and I wear that badge proudly before it went public on November 30th. To me, that is the go-to tool. But I will go to ChatGPT, and like I said, someone's been using it for me, like for going on 3+ years now, or someone who's just starting out, say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm in this role for this organization, and then insert the URL to your organization. We're interested in utilizing AI to increase better efficiency within our workflow. Where do we start?
Oh.
And literally have AI teach you how to use AI for your organization.
That's amazing.
Why did I never?
So like that's like like stepping into the door.
Yes.
Like, hey, I'm new to this, or hey, I've been using it for 2 years. I just need a new perspective, because that's what's great about AI is like I've got a left, a left side, a right side, different perspective. I can bring and create different personas that are specializing in different tasks and different roles. When I say anything is possible, like to me, it's the excitement of the choose your own adventure-esque of generative AI. When I hit enter, I don't know what I'm going to get. I know what my desired output is going to be based upon my input, but it always keeping me on my toes. It's always focusing on how can I unlock different creative thinking, different strategic thinking to identify what I'm trying to accomplish. What are the steps that I need to get there? How can I explain it? Or even better, I'll use ChatGPT. Let's take building a custom GPT, for example. I need to build a donor persona for a higher ed or organization that focuses on supporting neurological research. Before I get into the custom GPT prompting, I'll use the external part of ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm trying to build this custom persona. This is what it's going to look like. What prompt should I use to train the custom GPT? So once again, learning from AI, how to use AI more efficiently.
That's amazing. So I want to pick apart words you used again. So you talked generative, predictive. Now you're talking about training and driving. So can you talk about the difference of those? Because to me, I immediately think of, my life totally opened up to me in a different way when I was able to ask the right Google question, right? Like who can Google better than, So the training and the driving of the AI tool or the prompting, can you talk a little bit about those just to dissect what are the differences of those tasks?
Sure. And I think I'm going to build off of what you said there about who's a better Googler. I don't use Google anymore. Now, because of the integration with ChatGPT's access to the internet, I actually have a Google Chrome extension that when I type in, the URL bar where you normally would search for Google, it now opens up ChatGPT. When you Google, you're getting first search result, first level results.
Right.
I want to know what are the local food shelters in my area, and it's going to give me results. But once I find the one that I like and want to support, and I want to find out what are its focuses, its missions, its programs, you're going to have to dig through that website. Whereas in ChatGPT, having that mindset of that conversation, explaining to it what you want to accomplish, what you want to find out, it can now find that. That is what prompt engineering is. Prompt engineering is the mad science of talking to the computer. It's how can I explain in clear language what I need you to do, what role I want you to play, what is your expertise, what is your knowledge, what resources, now going on to training, what resources can I provide you to be that expert? So for building out that after-school arts education program, providing it with the past 5 years of impact reports, providing it with your KPIs or key performance indicators from your email and your social, providing it with your appeals, providing it with your blog content so it understands, becomes that persona, takes on that expertise to get you to the 5-yard line. Generative AI is never going to get you all the way across. And that's the same thing I believe is that you're not going to be replaced by AI. What's going to replace you is another NGO leader who's utilizing AI for superpower.
Yeah.
Wait, say that again.
I think that's important.
So you're not going to be replaced by AI. Who's replacing you is your colleague who's utilizing generative AI as a superpower to create better engagement with their donors by utilizing data to analyze at scale to truly create bespoke donor journeys. So when you think about the lifetime value we're trying to create with a donor, I support 3 nonprofits. At the end of the year, I get 3 appeals back. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for supporting our arts program, our food shelter, our no-kill animal shelter. You've been a great monthly donor for the last 5 years at $10 a month. What do you think about increasing your gift to $5 more? Signed, Executive Director. Pretty vanilla, pretty standard. However, and that's building upon quantitative data.
Okay.
Using qualitative data, right? Getting to that psychographic connections, that interest, intent, and motivation of a donor to your organization. So when I get that appeal from that no-kill animal shelter, it's like, hey, Josh, thank you for being a $10 a month donor for the last 5 years. We hope that you and Snuggles have had an incredible times out at the beach running around. We know how important it is for you to go on your hikes together and get those nose boops in. Don't forget, this year on World Chihuahua Day, be sure to remember us. Like, utilizing that level of connection with your donors is going to make you stand out. Can I do this without AI? Absolutely. Do you have time in your day? Absolutely not.
Right.
So when I can sit there and segment out my top 100 donors, because once again, your greatest support is coming there, right? So if I can invest my time from my most engaged donors from a, time, treasure, and talent perspective, make them feel like they're the only ones in the room, that I hear them when they're talking to us, I understand why they're connected, and then speak to them the way they want to be spoken to, that's going to create such greater engagement with my donors over a long run.
It is, well, it's, we've had this conversation with several folks about utilization of tools so that humans can be more human. And I think it continues here. And we were talking to Anne Murphy about AI, and she and I kind of recoiled slightly in horror when she said this, but then also am warming up to the idea of, we're moving into a space where we're all going to have an AI companion. And you're effectively building a relationship with that companion. And
I mean, even in just the way you're talking about AI right now, right? Like you're talking to the computer.
Exactly. And, on a very, very baseline level, the way I think about it is, Suri came into our lexicon as like this thing versus a technology a little bit. Like she was kind of saucy and I didn't like all of her answers and all of those things, but that's kind of helped me get my brain around what that is. And we're moving into a time where we're in conversations with AI, having conversations with AI tools. What are some of the cool projects you're seeing generate out of that when fundraisers are willing to dive in, who are willing to spend that time so that they can end up with a superpower that maybe other folks aren't, and that they can actually use it to deepen and accelerate their relationship with donors?
So there's so many different use cases and ways I'm hearing of various organizations using it. I think it really takes the commitment and understanding from our donors that we are using that. And we need to have that, I think, transparency and accountability to our donors first. And once you're able to establish that, having them understand, I'm going to use your data to create that opportunity for you to come into my organization at such a different level, or for me to be able to create these virtual personas that I'm engaging with, or being able to develop a 3-year 3-month end of year campaign that starting from our various segments and then building upon that. Like when we look at the time and energy, we know that these are the things we have to do, but our legal pad list of to-do things is just growing so much longer.
Are you following me?
And we know that I can't.
How do you know I have a legal pad list?
I can't speak to the donors all the same way. So being able to truly segment out that, building off of the same tone, that same voice of your organization, it's just every day there are new ways to be using it. Great. Write your email to your donor, do your social media posts. That's so low hanging fruit on the tree. And that's what you need to do to get your feet wet. But think bigger. You're doing, and I was talking to some colleagues, like they're planning their next upcoming gala, and they take I'm like, listen, all right, so take all your KPIs from this year's, take it from your attendance, take it about from your email perspective, your social perspective, all those raw data points, feed that into that and say, we've been doing this gala for the last 5 years. We average X amount of people. This is our net revenue. We want to increase by X amount % of both attendees and revenue. What are some recommendations to help do that? Where can I, improve upon our budget? Help me develop the communications plan for this event. Like there's so many different ways if we just stop and come together. And that's what I think is so important is like having the brainstorming sessions together as teams, because this doesn't live just in fundraising. This doesn't just live in marketing.
Right. Yeah.
It's impacting programming, C-suite, operations, everywhere. can benefit from utilizing generative AI. And it's when we get together and talk through those ideas, do we start to come up with new solutions.
Well, so you just said talk through these ideas. I'm imagining right now as we're watching a giant revolution happening where our government administration in the United States is impacting the nonprofit sector from a variety of ways, right? Loss of federal funding, change in relationship, change in research. I'm curious, are you seeing AI as a tool that people are using for problem solving around mission, like program mission, things like how do we create more housing in our community without the addition of federal funding? Here's the model we currently use. Like, is that the type of engagement and brainstorming people are utilizing AI for?
100%. Looking at it from an operations perspective, looking at it from we're feeding 200 kids after school and putting, food in their backpacks on the weekends. We know that through our curriculum and through we could be going to an additional 200 kids to do that. It's not just funding related. We need to know from an operations, supply chain, logistics, how do we take, not just from a fund development perspective, but from an operations perspective to create greater social impact. These are the conversations that we should be having. And once again, I keep going back to conversations. Like Ann said, having a companion. That's how I treat AI. I will praise it when it does something right. I will admonish it when it does something wrong. Because it needs to learn from me and understand my expectations. It gets better the more that you work with it and talk through it. Know that you can't break it. Know that nothing's going to go wrong, but we're not going to take everything for face value. We know that there is the potential for, the validity and accuracy not to always be on point. We're always checking for that efficacy of the content. And that's something also we need to keep in mind. It's great, but it's infallible.
Well, I want to know about the tools that you're using. Yeah. So you said you're talking to your AI. First, I've heard of folks, and I'm curious about this. I've heard of folks actually like starting to develop a persona for their AI, meaning naming it something different and, having conversation with it, literally turning on the audio tool versus just typing in a prompt box. I'm curious about, you mentioned Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude. I always have that sort of concern or fear factor about how are we making sure this is human-centered? How are we making sure that this is, for good and not for evil? How sort of equitable are the tools out there? Are there tools that you recommend staying away from? Are there tools you recommend using? Are there like places that the nonprofit sector are leaning into more heavily?
So starting at the base, got to have a ethical and responsible use of generative AI. So your first op, it's fundraising.ai. Go check out the framework that they've developed. Look at the framework that they're putting when you're developing your AI usage policy, understanding from a transparency, data usage, all those factors when utilizing generative AI. How are we putting those guardrails in place within our organization? So that's your first stop. Then work on there from developing an AI usage policy. There's some great templates out there that you can build off of, because once again, this can't live in AI in your IT department. Yeah. This doesn't live just for marketing. This is something that affects everyone. And it should be a living document. You need to know, are we going to be using generative AI images for our various marketing and fund development pieces? Sometimes we're not able to capture that image we need. We're a parks department for our local, municipality, and we have our annual summer barbecue, but it's been raining for 3 months straight and the fields are all torn up, and we need to be able to show some great pictures from this past week. So do we go to stock imagery? Do we go back into our archives, or do we create something that is going to create an emotion within someone? So that's the next level. So I know from a sentiment perspective, I want to make a donor feel this way, or I want to ensure that a certain emotion gets across. Hey, here's the image I was going to use. Is it evoking that emotion? Or reverse engineer it, saying, I want to evoke this emotion. What images should I create? So how am I going to use this? So when we're talking about, what tools, ChatGPT does a great job of images. It's gotten a lot better over time. Midjourney is one of my favorites when it comes to image creation. Napkin.ai has quickly become one of my favorites.
That's
Napkin
fun.
is amazing for creating charts and graphs.
Oh, okay.
And more so it's not like bar graph and pie charts, but let me take what would have been a really boring PowerPoint slide that has 10 bullet points and it's just like death by PowerPoint that is going to be so much more compelling and engaging in a sort of presentation. I use like all my presentations for workshops and stuff now, I'm using napkin.ai to create the graphics. It's amazing. That's a go-to. Hemingwayapp.com is another great one that I love. So Hemingway, it's a free tool. I haven't run into any paid walls. Same thing with Napkin. I haven't run any paid walls with that. I take that. Hemingway is freemium. There are some paid features, but I'll take content that I generate from ChatGPT, throw it into there. I immediately get word count, character count. I get readability level because we know in fundraising we want to be in that like 6th, 7th grade to like 8th, 9th grade sort of level. It gives you that. It gives you hard to read sentences, passive sentences. Really great tool from like a grammar perspective. Obviously, Grammarly is another one that you want to have installed. Like all these have generative AI built into it. Like when we going back to what we were talking about before, we've been using it way more than we realize in a passive sense. From a passive perspective, and we've been using predictive too from a passive sense. Think about if you do any like scheduling of your social media posts for your organization and Facebook says, hey, here's your recommended times. That's predictive analysis based upon the engagement from your potential audience members. So it's been in our lives, and now it's just like we have just so much greater access with it.
I watch Kristen's head melt anytime we talk about AI. Kristen is not has not adopted AI. Anne Murphy spent a lot of time trying to.
I'm utilizing it, but I think it's also just I'm one of those people that has to do like all the what ifs, ands, research, build the case, etc.
Understand,
and then can do that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about potentially my biggest opportunity and obstacle, which is driving AI. We'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the fundraising elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
Welcome back. We are here with Josh Hirsch. We are talking about my favorite thing in the world, AI. Josh, I told Nathan Chappelle, I've told Anne Murphy in past episodes that I'm slow to adopt here. I'm willing, but I've been slow to adopt. So treat me like you would the nonprofit sector. I respond to sort of treats and cajoling along. Let's talk about driving AI, because I do feel like that is often my biggest obstacle. We talk about all these fantastic, amazing things that can happen. And I go, oh,
yeah,
lovely. And then I feel like there's just this immense gap between where I am and that getting spit back to me as information from something that I've put in to drive AI. How can I do that better and get better results instead of it? Like sometimes literally I'm sitting there getting ready to prompt and I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And that's stymied. I think Sam's the opposite. Sam just types everything under the sun in there and keeps coning. Like she has no qualms about just kind of continuing to hone and hone and hone. Sometimes I just don't even know where to start.
So couple ways that we can take this. So first, when I'm sitting down and working on a project, I want to turn ChatGPT into a persona. I want it to take on a role. And this is separate than building a custom GPT. Custom GPT is a standalone agent bot, insert word that you want to call it, that serves a single purpose. But sometimes I'm working on a project and I want within that thread to have a specific persona. That custom GPT agent bot is something I can come back to and bring into other situations. This would be standalone for that project. So I'll go into the persona pattern, also known as the create formula, where I will go through a certain template in my mind. I always start with the prompt with act like, and then the role that I want them to take on. So act like the vice president of development for insert name of organization, and then insert that URL. The reason I'm inserting that URL is because let's say there's another Sunshine Academy out there that exists. By including that URL, it's doing one of two things. It is cross-referencing within the LLM, that large language model warehouse of data, knowing that, all right, where it's this Sunshine Academy and here's all the data that we have on it. And at the same time, too, it lets me go out on the internet and pull down information from their website. So act like role organization URL. You are a 30-year veteran of the nonprofit sector. And I've messed around with different timeframes. By saying 30-year veteran, it shows that you're a stalwart. It shows that you've been around for a long time. And I've seen a lot of evolution in the space. And then from there, I'll say, you are very successful, having raised hundreds of millions of dollars, assuming it is a fund development role. If not, I'll bring in a different KPI tied to that.
Okay.
I'll then want to bring you down the funnel further. You are a subject matter expert in fund development, nonprofit leadership, and then I always bring in a third that's a niche specifically to that vertical of cause. And then I'll say you are well respected by your peers, having published multiple journal articles and presenting at conferences annually. So it establishes you as a thought leader. That's my initial persona pattern formula.
Okay.
Then from there, I'll go on the website. I'll bring some basic information, some about us, our mission statement, maybe little programs. I'll put that all into that one prompt and I'll hit enter. I don't care what my output is going to be because moving forward, I'm now turning on that thread into that role for ChatGPT. So all content being output going forward will be from that specific perspective. And that's a lot of the ways that I will start. Now, another build off of that is that I want to create clarity and understanding within ChatGPT. I want it to have opportunities for a feedback loop.
Okay.
So I will end a lot of my prompts with, do you understand or have any questions? What I'm then doing is opening it up to ChatGPT saying, you know what? I see what you're trying to accomplish. However, answer these questions for me. After I get that, I'll give you your output. And by providing that opportunity for feedback, it's created such greater output along the way because it is getting a better understanding of where I am. To that point, going further, let's say I'm working on, I've trained the model, it knows my campaign I'm working on, it knows my organization, and I'm working on subject lines that I want to be optimized for open rate. So I'll take my last 5 years of data, of my KPIs, open rate, bounce rate, click-through rate, dump that into ChatGPT, either literally copy and paste the rows from Excel or upload a CSV file, because I noticed CSV does better than XLS. I'll drop that in there and say, based upon the data provided, create a table for me that has 10 subject lines that are optimized for open rate, and then say, include an additional column for pre-header copy. And then going back to me learning from ChatGPT, I'll say, include a column for reasoning. Because I want to see the way it's thinking and bringing its perspective in to give me its answer.
Interesting.
We should always be learning, we need to learn why it's doing what it's doing, not just say, hey, draft me a appeal letter and then taking that and doing some revisions of the prompts.
Right.
Okay, that's great, but how do we get there? How can I then make my prompting better to get better outputs in the future?
But also, how can you, when you're talking about utilization of these tools turning into a superpower, that is that piece, right? That you understand when you offer this work product and somebody says, cool, why?
Yeah.
Like there needs to be that piece. You may not have been point of origin for it, but you need to understand to also be able to learn forward.
Yeah. provide me resource, ask it questions.
Yep.
And okay, so you just broke down for us, Josh, the persona development first, asking questions or asking the AI tool if they have questions, if it has questions on the prompt or the task at hand. You talked about feedback and driving with feedback, but you also said for in the future. So I want to ask about, you're talking about a single thread of conversation here, right? Driving AI by saying, play this role. Here's our persona development. Do this task. Here's the information you need. Do you have any questions about this task? And please explain your reasoning and where you're getting this information from in a single thread. What about future coming back to that conversation to repeat that task or to take it one step further?
Or to utilize those learnings moving forward.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy, once again, evolving every day. In the before times, and that's like before, 6 months ago, each individual thread was mutually exclusive to itself. Now we're getting bleed over where it will learn and be able to pull things together. So for example, I'm speaking at different conferences all over the country and all over the world. I'm planning things out. I was working in ChatGPT the other day and said, all right, well, we were working on planning that road trip. And it's like, oh, yes, we were talking about from this city to that city. And I'm like, this was a completely different chat. This was like 10 chats later.
Wow.
But it still had that reference and understanding of where we are. So it is learning as we go along. What once was, all right, we have to do it just this way. Every day I'm finding out new features. And that's personally what I love about OpenAI and what Sam Altman is doing there is that, with Apple, it's like, all right, maybe every 6 months to a year, we're going to release a new iOS, and here's the various 7 features that you're going to get. Whereas with OpenAI, it's like, hey, it's Tuesday, hold my beer, let me show you what I'm doing today.
That's amazing.
And they break out this amazing new feature that you didn't know was in development, but they're like, hey, by the way, check out this awesomeness. And it's wild. It is absolutely wild how fast-paced for the nonprofit and for-profit sector we're seeing things evolve. We're seeing these new companies, startups that are just building amazing things, integrating generative and predictive AI. It is a great time to be embracing this technology, not being afraid of it, knowing it can be overwhelming. Nothing wrong with feeling overwhelmed. Just don't be scared.
Well, I think that I had sort of an aha moment for myself as a user when I read an article about how fast things like research, medical solutions are going to be occurring in the next few years because of the use of AI and the ability to continue to learn forward faster. And so as we started to sort of look at the fact that there's a lot of change globally happening and there's a lot of things we're trying to solve, environmental challenges or housing challenges, these are things that I started to realize, oh, this could happen faster than we've ever seen it happen because of that AI tool. It wasn't until we had a conversation recently with Mallory Erickson and her Practivated tool that I was completely blown away with it beyond the generative, right? Of thinking of it as a partner, a thought partner. And in her case, a practice partner. I'm sure you've talked to Mallory about her tool. It just is so cool to think about. We can develop a practice relationship with our donor and even as a consultant, that's one of the calls we regularly get is we have an appointment booked with this donor. We've never met with them before. What resource information do you have? Where have you seen them give? Because they're trying to develop that history. And here Mallory's developed this tool where you can enter all that information and then practice your ask. You then said in a conversation with us and prep for this conversation that you developed a theme song for a nonprofit utilizing AI. So what other cool ways are you seeing, not just for developing a great strategic plan or a great fundraising ask, but what other ways are you seeing AI become a tool that is bringing quick solution, big ideas? Sort of what cool things are you seeing in the nonprofit space right now?
So going back to Mallory's platform for saying, Practivated is amazing. I think what she's been able to do and is building there, it's going to be revolutionary. And I'm really excited as more people in this sector get exposed to what she's building there. I mean, there's just such great things. And as you said, I built a theme song. I think people are starting to have fun utilizing it. I think that, going beyond just like, all right, once again, the fundraising aspects of it, how can I build emotion into my organization? How can I create campaigns that are driving from brand perspectives? It's just such a wild, fun time to be out there, knowing that we are really, truly still the early days. I mean, it's not even 3 years since we went public with ChatGPT. Like, think about everything that has happened in these 3 years. It's a incredible, wild time to be alive, knowing that there's such great ways out there. The generative AI aspect. So, you're talking about fun things, like go take a look at my LinkedIn profile and see that my LinkedIn profile picture is unlike anything else that you're going to see on LinkedIn, because I wanted some emotion. So what did I do? I created a Muppet style plush figure of myself. That's now my portrait photo.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's like, you the trend that went around of everyone creating their action figures in the blister packs and the Studio Ghibli, like these sort of trends that all of a sudden pop up. They're around for 2 or 3 days, then they go away. But there's ways that the nonprofit sector can jump on these and harness these trends to become more effective, and add that fact that, hey, yes, we're an organization raising money for some serious causes, but we're people behind us. Let us show you that human element and fun and human emotion behind our organizations as well.
Yeah. I also want to pull forward and just sort of underscore what you were talking about earlier, because I've continued to ruminate on it, and I think it has some really interesting potential for organizations to think about utilization of AI for solutions within organizations.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we paint ourselves into these corners with these seemingly intractable problems, and we label them as such. We leave them in the corner and don't talk about them because we know they're there. And yet I think as a tool, you could get an outside, quote unquote, perspective that's being fed with your information to think about, how could we think about this differently? Does this have to be the obstacle? What is that? Especially as, if what we're looking at right now is a period of time where, people are going to move into conservative stances around staffing or around program reach or whatever all those pieces are. Can AI be a tool that we're utilizing to figure out how to do that in ways that feel less punitive, but more creative? How do we, we keep saying, how do we do more with less? And it's like, maybe we just haven't had the right idea yet. And this could be a space where you start to brainstorm and run some of those ideas out without having to do them in real life quite yet. And to have a thought partner in some of that. I'm just very interested in that idea of AI being a space to test run solutions or to present problems and see what are solutions I'm not seeing. I think I'm interested in AI's ability to show us our own blind spots.
Yeah.
Practivated does it in donor relationships. Like, I'm missing the boat with this donor, and it can show you that. What can it show me about problem solving in general?
I built a really cool custom GPT that did something very similar, where it was running through scenarios. Basically it's a what if bot, and looking exactly what you're talking about is like playing through various scenarios, playing the what if game for our organization, determining, should we focus on this? Should we focus on that? And it's been pretty successful in terms of like actual real world application. And once again, this is one of those things that was 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, hey, I wonder if I can build this. And I did. And it's fun and it's exciting. And knowing that we really are at a time that if you dream it, there is no boundaries.
It's amazing.
And it's amazing. It's fun for someone like me who is super creative in my mind, but I can't draw for a lick.
Yep.
But I can use generative AI imaging tools to create some really wild, fun stuff. So like, that's how I fell into this world of generative AI, was through generative art and playing around with Midjourney, and then was in some early, and I'm gonna date myself, like Twitter DM groups that we were talking about generative AI art and just got into Midjourney, and then got into a couple other platforms, and then all of a sudden comes around ChatGPT, and this was like early 2022. I mean, it was an amazing time, and we're still in the early chapters of what is possible.
You are the training specialist at Fundraise Up for digital fundraising. Talk to us a little bit about how AI is removing friction points that might stop a donor from completing an online gift.
Yeah, too often do we have that motivation to give, but all of a sudden, phone rings, I put something down and I don't come back to it. Or more so, like, I have that desire, but you're giving me too many options. I don't know where my gift is going to. Built within the platform itself at Fundraise Up, in nanoseconds, it's making these decisions for you and giving you a greater experience. Even something like smart forms, right? So I go in and I start typing in 123 Main Street, and it's going to populate the rest of my address because it's knowing my IP address, it knows my location. Or things like when I am in Europe and want to make a gift, well, it's going to pre-populate in euros, or it's going to pre-populate in pounds if I'm over in a certain country, versus when I'm here in the States, it's going to pre-populate to dollars, or pre-populates to the Canadian dollar when I'm over up in Canada. I mean, there's so many things that are experiencing that through generative and predictive AI, without us even realizing that we're getting better donor experiences as a result.
Yep.
Well, when we were at Icon, you said, hey, come over here for a second. Let me show you what's going on with the Institute. And in like less than 5 minutes, you taught me so many components that were just like key elements to think about. Where are those friction points for donors? Thinking about, cart abandonment, thinking about the fact that we sit and contemplate, are we going to suggest a $25 minimum donation or $100 minimum donation? And you're like, well, Fundraise Up will suggest based on the donor information and based on their activities and behaviors. I'm wondering if you can tell folks at home listening a little bit about the Institute and what you're working on, what's coming.
Absolutely. So this has been my pet project for the last 6+ months at Fundraise Up. And at my core, I'm an educator. At my core, I'm also a fundraiser, spending 15+ years on the front line. So I've been able to take everything from actual practical applications and develop our first certificate program, which is in modern digital fundraising, looking at what you need as a fundraiser to do better with less. And not if you're using Fundraise Up, doesn't matter if, what platform you're on, focusing on best practices in digital fundraising from a tools and technology, from a strategy and campaigns, and from an analytics perspective. So we have 3 different courses. Each one has different learning components and activities along the way, knowledge checks. And by the time you're done, not only are you going to be a better fundraiser, but you'll have earned CFRE credits towards your either certification or recertification. Like I said, it doesn't matter what platform you're on as a fundraising tool, and it's free. It's a way for you to level up your game as a fundraiser and ensure that your organization is creating the greatest philanthropic social impact for your constituents.
So the Institute is launching soon. When it launches, this is the solution to what you said earlier, right? Of it is not AI that's going to take your job. It's your colleague that's using AI that's going to take your job. This is your chance to get a digital fundraising certification. When and how can folks find out about it?
Sure, they can go to institute.fundraiseup.com and they can find out all the information that they need about all those great educational opportunities that we provide.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come right back, we'll be in the fundraising elevator with Josh Hirsch. We'll be right back. We've been partnering with Greater Giving for over 20 years as our go-to event auction software. Greater Giving allows us to do our job, planning fundraising events, even better because we can manage guest lists, seating, bid number assignments, and sales all in one place.
That makes it great for our nonprofit partners and their guests. Check out Greater Giving for your next event at greatergiving.com. Link in the show notes. Welcome back. We are here with Josh Hirsch. We are talking about my favorite thing on the planet.
It's becoming your favorite thing.
It is. I am intrigued. I am intrigued, which means curiosity is afoot and usage will happen. Josh, jump into the fundraising elevator with us. This is a question we ask all of our guests. We're all headed up in the fundraising elevator. What is that sort of key tip, doors are closing, thing you want to send our fundraising superheroes off with so that they can continue heading up?
This has been a tip that I've been giving for the past 15, 20 years. I still think it's the same, and it rings so more true. Listen and engage. Don't just take your strategy and say, I think this is going to work, but utilize your data, listen to your constituents, listen to your data, and act upon it. As a result, you're going to have a greater experience for your donors. You're going to create greater social impact. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
I love it. Well, Josh, I've watched you speak a couple of times, and I always learn so much from you. When you said you are just at your core an educator, I believe that's true. You've taken complicated topics and broken them down into really digestible bits. For me personally, if folks want to get more information about you, how can they find you?
Sure. I think the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. That's where I live and breathe and share all my content, whether I'm nerding out about AI or sharing the Goonies philosophy of nonprofit leadership. That's where you can find me the best and easiest.
Goonies never die.
Goonies never die. You're absolutely right.
Well, Josh, thank you for joining us today. Have a great day, and thank you for stepping into the fundraising elevator with us.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great one.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.